Before we get started, you know domaintools.com, right? I can type whois.sc/domain name really fast, and I do it daily, but until recently, I didn't know how powerful their other tools were. If I want a domain name, I can set a free alert to notify me when it changes status. If it goes to auction, I can use their sales history tool to find comps and determine my maximum bid price. If I buy it and develop the domain name into a business, I can set up alerts for any domains registered that contain my trademark, and I can set up registrant alerts of all my competitors so I can keep an eye on what domains they're buying and know what they're up to before they make any announcements. Domaintools.com needs to be in your toolbox like it's in mine. Go sign up for an account on domaintools.com today. My second sponsor is David E. Westlow at Wiley Rein. Imagine having a legal issue like a UDRP or a cease and desist. Imagine having to get an agreement put together quickly for buying or selling a domain name. And imagine going to your family lawyer who just doesn't get it, or one of the expensive law firms in your city who are going to invoice you for thousands upon thousands of dollars. Then imagine going to David E. Westlow, who will understand your domain name portfolio and your intellectual property assets, understand the domain name environment, and be able to help you out quickly. David E. Westlow. I recommend him. I trust him. I suggest you give him a call. Your initial consultation is free. David E. Westlow at Wiley Rein. Finally, our newest sponsor is Protrata, the domain exchange. Protrata is an amazing new platform for professional domainers and newcomers alike. Protrata makes trading domain names easy. With just a few clicks, you can analyze, bid, buy, and sell domains across all of the major marketplaces, including Namejet, GoDaddy, SnapNames, and Craigslist. You can also develop stagnating domains you own into great-looking, content-rich, socially active websites that will rank at Google and Bing. This tool is more comprehensive than any other I've seen. If you only use it for its 21 powerful buying filters, you'll get your money's worth. Get your free 14-day trial now at protrata.com. Protrada.com. Here's your program. Hey everyone, my name is Michael Seiger and I'm the publisher of DomainSherpa.com, the domain name authority and the place where you can learn how to become a successful domain name entrepreneur directly from the experts themselves. About a month ago, I interviewed Michael Castello, the founder and CEO of Castello Cities Internet Network. Michael walked us through the vision and execution of PalmSprings.com, the network's most successful geo-domain, and a single website that brings in about $1 million a year in revenue. Michael was quick to point out that he couldn't have done it alone, and that his brother David Castello was responsible for the editorial and the advertising sales, that David was the Rainmaker. Today, we're fortunate to have David Castello joining us. David is the Chief Operating Officer and Editor-in-Chief of Castello Cities Internet Network. David, welcome to the show.
Great to be here.
David, I'd like to start off the show with a little background on the guest. Since your brother Michael came on the show before you, I think it's only fair to give you the last say with respect to the following question. When you two were growing up, who used to whoop on whom? Did you used to beat up your brother or did he beat up you?
Well, even though Michael and I are only a year apart, I was always a lot taller, so there was a height advantage. But he can run quickly, so you can always catch him.
Excellent. So only 1 year between you two.
Yes.
And you two don't have any other brothers or sisters?
No, we had an older sister, but she passed away actually before we were born, and it's the reason our parents moved away from the Bronx in New York. It was the cold weather. She died of pneumonia, so it's the reason we moved to Florida.
I'm sorry to hear that. So you two were very close growing up. Did you have the same circle of friends?
Yeah, in some ways. It was always funny. Michael was known as the musical one. I was known as the scientific one. You know, parents and family always try to stereotype their kids.
Yeah.
But we ended up being in a band together in our teens. So in that way, we moving to New York and then to Los Angeles. So we played together for a while.
Wow. And did you travel around with your band, or was it a local band?
Well, there were different bands. There was a great band called BPB, Bonnie Parker. She still plays. She's a bass player out of New York City. We played a lot through the Midwest and the Northeast. And then Michael and I moved to Los Angeles. We played mostly in the Los Angeles area. Then Michael stopped performing to produce, which turned to be fortuitous because he was doing production with computers instead of recording tape, and you can see how that segued into where we are now. I went into other bands that played in Europe and South America, and now here I am getting into another band, so it never leaves you.
Yeah, excellent. And what do you play?
Drums.
Drums.
Drums, and I get to manage. I always seem to do both.
All right. Well, we may actually hear some drumming. My next-door neighbor, which is right outside my studio, has a... I think he's an 11 or 12-year-old, and he's been getting on his drums out there, and so hopefully he won't interrupt our show today. But back in April 1995, when Michael called you up and said he registered for free the domain name palmsprings.com, what were you thinking at the time?
He called to tell me that something, he goes, did you hear what happened? And I said, of course. There was the bombing in Oklahoma City. Because it was the same day. It was April 19th, 95, and I thought that's what he was calling me about. But he told me about registering palmsprings.com. I had no idea what he was talking about. In fact, I didn't even know what email was until I partnered with him in 97. But I left the music business same reason a lot of people do, just got tired, got burned out. You know, it's the entertainment business can really do a number on you. Yeah. And I just went back to Florida. I also love writing. I'm actually a history writer, and I was working on my first manuscript, and I was hanging out with my parents, and my mother was telling me what Michael was doing, and she kept telling me to take a look at it. And back then, computers had absolutely negative allure for me.
Right.
And I did everything on typewriter, and like I said, I didn't know what email was, and I took a closer look, and I started to see things that kept drawing me back. And in retrospect, my ignorance and naivete really played in our favor because I didn't know what could be done and what couldn't be done. And I did something very important, which all people entering this industry should always do. I went with my gut. And I said, these are the brands. I said, if we own, like we live in Boynton Beach, where we grew up, Boynton Beach, Florida. I said, well, if we own BoyntonBeach.com, which we do, then we own the worldwide brand for Boynton Beach. If we own Laguna Beach and Acapulco, which we do in Palm Springs, then we own the worldwide brands. Of course, at the time, that was considered very speculative thinking. To me, it made perfect sense.
Right.
And then it was just a matter of taking that theory and turning it into a very quick reality.
And having that vision early on was critical to the success of your network, would you say?
Well, what happened is that I said, you know, Michael and I hadn't performed together a while. There was a lot of reasons in the back which were kind of cute. Our parents wanted to see us work together again. And I said, okay, I'll take a closer look. And our mother had run for mayor a couple times in Boynton Beach. You know, we lived there a long time. And so I went out, and a lot of people knew our family, and I just went out to sign. I said, I'll look at this as just research. Yeah. So I went out to sign hotels and restaurants, and I was charging them $100 a year, which, you know, breaks down to less than $9 a month. And they were
in Boynton Beach.
In Boynton Beach for BoyntonBeach.com. We're talking the fall of 1997. Talking about, you know, September. Yeah. October. And what happened was I saw something happen very quickly that pulled me into this. That was pretty much the stone age of local internet marketing, right. Local businesses. And half of the businesses had websites. They may have been archaic and simple, but they had websites. The other half didn't have websites. So what we did is when we signed someone for, you know, the $100 fee, we put them in a restaurant section, and if they had a site, we linked to their restaurant. If we didn't, you know, I used to have a rock and roll magazine in Los Angeles. I knew how to build a splash page. I said, well, let's give them something. So in my simple HTML, I was learning HTML at the time, which was hilarious, and I'd build these little pages. Well, within about 3 to 4 weeks, I noticed something because I'm making the same rounds. A lot of times I'm seeing the same people. It's not a very big city, Boynton. And the people that I was linking to their site were like, well, it was $100, you know, hey, it didn't work. But the people I built my dopey little page were like, hey, we got some business. So I said, well, that shouldn't be because I really don't know how to build a site. And then I remembered, okay, it's the old principle, less is more, which runs contrary to a lot of how the internet works because you want more content, you want more this, which you do in circumstances. It's very important to give your site credibility. But a human on the internet is seeing so many sites and so many things. They really don't give you more than 8 to 10 seconds max of their time before you have to pull them in. Right. And I was realizing that my little dopey splash page was giving them enough information to make the people maybe pick up the phone and make a reservation for the hotel or the restaurant. And it was almost straight down the middle. And I said, okay. And I had met with a couple of webmasters up by that point because I was just doing my research. And I came to the conclusion they were going in the wrong direction. They believed that more is better. They were building sites to basically impress other webmasters, but weren't really converting revenue. And I said, okay, you know, if I want to win design awards or I want to make friends with a lot of webmasters, we can do one thing. If I'm trying to make money for clients who are the ones who are going to pay me and then pay me on a long-term basis, I got to start doing my own thing. Right. And so that's what happened. So at this point, I was getting very excited. I turned to Michael and I said, what is your most popular city name? Because we had the generic names like we have now, like whiskey and sample and rate and cost. But I already saw a way to monetize the city sites by what happened with littleboyandbeach.com.
Right.
And he said, well, Palm Springs. And I'm thinking, well, that's the other side of the country. One, I don't play golf. You know, I like the ocean. I'm going down a list of reasons I don't want to go there. And but I'm looking at his stats, and in September of '97, the site was doing, you know, 60,000 uniques a month, which was nothing to sneeze at back then.
Right.
And Michael had content up. He was doing lists of hotels, lists of restaurants, and it was content. And so I really still didn't want to do it. So our mom, who's a brilliant entrepreneur, she said, I'll do a bet with you. I'll bet you a certain amount of money, and it was a nice chunk to make me interested, that if you fly out there for 2 days, because she's been a real estate broker for 35 years in Palm Beach County. She knows the value of leads. And you walk in and just talk to these people cold, which I'll do. Hey, no, I'm not shy. I'll walk into a dozen. Little did I know, it's like walking into the lion's den. and I'd walk in and try and sell these people. So I'm thinking, okay, how much do you expect me to get for this? It was an exclusive for the real estate side.
Yeah.
And I think she's going to say like 200 a month. She goes, 1,250 a month. I'm thinking, there's no way. That'd be like getting 100,000 a month now. It was a ridiculous amount of money for that period of time. Well, at the same time, Michael had listed 5 houses on there. One sold. Right. And our mother got a referral fee. So I went, okay. So I flew out to December 14th, and I walked in cold to all these places. And some were brutal. Some actually were interested because they said, well, what's your site? And I said, we own palmsprings.com. And I go, well, how did you get that? Why doesn't the city have that? Which we can discuss later.
Right.
Always comes to human nature. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
And so what happened was I went to a bunch of places, and they were interested. Different realtors, which some will remain nameless. But the one who had actually given my mom the referral fee, I figured they were a shoo-in. So I wanted to talk to them, and I actually talked to the realtor. And he said, I think we want to do this. And there was 2 managers there, and one said yes. He goes, come back tomorrow. And I'm like, wow. Okay. So I come in the next day, and the other manager comes in and goes, well, we're not interested. And I was really crestfallen. I said, well, why? And he goes, if what you're saying is true, we're going to have to hire another secretary to handle all those leads. And it's one of those times in your life where you sit there and you go, you got this look on your face like, did I just hear what the guy said?
Yeah.
And the other guy, the agent, saw it was really, like upset. And he goes, look, I know someone who's got money, he's powerful, he's a tough hombre, and he's in Palm Desert. My first question was, where's Palm Desert? And he goes, it's 13 miles down the 111. He's a big Remax guy out there. So I drove out there, and I walk into his office, and I told his secretary, and she was expecting me because they had called ahead. And I walk in, he goes, looks at his watch and goes, you got 60 seconds, go. So I just went into it. And he stopped, and he looked at me, and he goes, so you own palmsprings.com. Just the words palmsprings.com. Now remember, this is in '97, and even back then, people were getting branding. Yeah. It wasn't an unknown phenomenon. They were getting it. And so what happened was, he said to me, come ride me to the banks. We got into his Porsche and went down not Rodeo Drive, that's Beverly Hills, El Paseo, which is the Rodeo Drive of the desert. Down El Paseo, and he looks at me and he goes, so if I get this, does anyone else have it? And I go, no, you have an exclusive. And he goes, how long is the contract? And I said, 1 year. And he goes, no, I want 2 years. And I sat